We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Welcome in to Tailgate, the Wednesday edition of Tailgate here. This is where we go over the 2022 NFL Draft risers and fallers from the previous week, college football week 5. Also, an absolute treat today, going over Mel Kiper Jr.'s new top 25 2022 NFL Draft rankings. We're going to look at those on ESPN.com, give some reactions to what he has already. He's had two big boards now. One big board out on September 1st, and now this one I think came out 5 or 6 days ago, and it's a lot different than it was before.
Well, he's grinding. I mean, with McShay out, he's got to put in the work. He's already got his top 10 long snappers. He's already got his kickers and punters ranked together because, if you need a kicker, you just have to draft the top punter on your draft board. You got to rank them together.
They're all the same thing. It's all the same thing. I hate the discourse on his position, whatever designations. He has edge defenders at off-ball linebacker at edge, whatever. I want to go through his top 25 rankings, stop it in between some certain spots here, and then give some reactions to that. So number 1 overall, Kayvon Thibodeau, defensive end out of Oregon. No surprises there. I was surprised, however, that he also has Kyle Hamilton as his second best prospect in the 2022 NFL Draft. I thought you might be on a cliff there. Not a cliff, on an island there with Kyle Hamilton as the number 2 overall prospect with other guys. Specifically, my argument is linemen. Linemen that often go higher than, say.
Safety. I mean, a number 2 overall, for that to be the safety position is, what do we say? That was one of the trivia questions, right? Like last time a safety went top 5 in the draft was Derrick Berry. Like it does not happen, whereas OTs, DTs, DEs, that's every year for those positions. So I do agree. But he is not weighing positional value in. If fucking the running back was – he thought second best player, he put them at number 2. I am, and I still think Kyle Hamilton's that good.
Yeah, previously he was the 5th ranked player on Mel Kiper Jr.'s draft board. He's now number 2. Then you have Derek Stingley, who I think we have in the same position as well. Derek Stingley at number 3, the LSU cornerback. Evan Neal, off to tackle, Alabama at 4. Aiden Hutchinson, up from 13 on his previous draft board to 5, right where we have him as well on the PFF draft board. Aiden Hutchinson actually getting some legitimate edge to love top 5 height from Mel Kiper.
Well, so we have exact same top 5 as we do, in order. Mm-hmm. That is it. So, what are you doing, Mel? You looking at the rank? You just checking out PFF? You like your sub? Is it working for you?
So this is probably where the conversation starts. So obviously he has an identical top 5 to PFF, and then at number 6, previously unranked, and a guy we've talked about a little bit on this podcast, Mississippi offensive tackle Charles Cross.
Yeah.
Number 6 in the 2022 NFL Draft, which I find a bit too high. I mean, you turn on his tape so far this season, you can see the athleticism. You can see him get, I think he does a really good job in run blocking, getting in front of people and those things. But specifically pass protection, beat on a speed to power by B.J. Ojulari against LSU, beat for a strip sack against La Tech. And he's gotten beat on a handful of inside moves too. I think he's gotten whiffs with his hands. Too much error in pass protection for me to feel all that confident as the number 6 overall player. I do think his run blocking has been impressive, and he's been far improved to what he's been in previous years. And you've talked about him as this project tackle that needs to take the next step. He's taken a step, but this is a top 6 step.
So I do think that at this point in the process, it's not saying that this guy is a number 6 overall pick. It's saying that this guy is the 6th best player in the class. Like that. Not every class has that many guys that are blue chip type of prospects. So I'm not disagreeing too much with that. Like, he has improved that much from last year to this year. We just highlighted him, I believe, last week on an episode, and I have him at 38. I had him at 38 on the draft board. I had him as a riser even this year when he was started in the 50s up to 38, and I even think that is too low. Like, he is a first-round type of player. Number 6, you can split hairs there. I don't think there are as many blue chip players just right now as there were in last year's draft class. Now, obviously, there's a lot of season left for guys to separate themselves, but so I think that could be part of it as well.
He's gotten right ahead of what I feel is the blue chip talent. DeMarvin Leal, the Texas A&M defensive tackle, he's down to 7, previously at 6. Mm-hmm. And then another interesting conversation is Jahan Dotson, the Penn State wide receiver, previously unranked on his draft board. Now, wide receiver 1, top 8 on his draft board. I can't get on board with this. 5'11", 184. He's not a big speedster. I wouldn't call him a route specialist. My strengths in looking at is smooth after the catch. There's a reason he plays punt returner, and also he has hands for days, catches everything thrown his way. That, in my opinion, and you saw the one deep pass he did have, or not one deep pass he's had, but a long deep touchdown against Villanova, was able to cook that corner with some speed. I don't know what that relative speed is to what Villanova's putting at quarterback, but I just don't know if I see wide receiver 1 talent, especially in a class with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave.
Yeah, this was the first one we're going through the list where I was like, oh, like this was the one that stuck out. All the other ones I can see. I mean, you mentioned Charles Cross. We're obviously lower on him than number 6, but I can see it. Jahan Dotson is number 8 overall player in a class. Like, drafting a guy like that top 10, or drafting him ahead of guys like Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, I was just like, I don't think I can see that. He's obviously a little different type of wide receiver. He's 5'11", 184. He is not going to – he's good at the catch point, but he's never going to be dominant at the catch point at that size. It's just difficult to when you are smaller than most NFL corners that he's going to be facing. So, yeah, he's shifty. Yes, he's talented with the ball in his hands, and I think he is a fairly crafty route runner. I don't think he's anything exceptional. I would probably take Chris Olave as a route runner over Jahan Dotson. But the thing is, like, 5'11", 184, and he's going to run like maybe a 4.45 is where I'd put him at. That kind of speed. He is not a elite take the top off.
I think that's the low speed, too, right? I don't know if he is a low 4.4 type.
I think that is like around the range you could expect from him. So that's just, a guy like that, you've already seen him get altered on the course of routes versus bigger corners at the line of scrimmage versus press. Like that, if you don't have elite speed to basically say you can't press me, because if you're going to whiff once, I'm going to absolutely cook you, and you're not going to have any recourse because I am faster than you. When you don't have that, I think he's going to see a lot more press and a lot more physicality at the next level. So this one, and his take on the wide receiver class in general here, I couldn't get on board with.
Yeah, I can't either. I think he has in the lead sentence here for his rationale. Dotson is an explosive wideout and having a great season. Look how open he is on this 49-yard touchdown against Wisconsin. That was against like off coverage and was blown. Like,
yeah, wasn't that a busted coverage? I don't know.
It did both, but he had 2 like deep receptions against Wisconsin, both of which where it was not man coverage. It looked like it was in zone coverage, and it looked busted in my opinion. I thought that's what it was. And also he has here his 12.2 average air yards per target, and he's not catching a lot of screens and stuff behind the line of scrimmage. You look at how many passes he's caught less than 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage on 35 targets. It's been 10. 10 of 30. I mean, it has been a decent amount of near the line of scrimmage receptions for Jahan Dotson.
12.2 air yards per target is not high. Like, he uses that as a high bar. Like, De'Ami Brown last year was up around 18. Like, 12.2 is rank average for a college wide receiver. That is not saying he's like getting bombs left and right.
Would you even argue that he's an outside receiver. That's the other thing. Like, I don't even know if you position him on the outside.
He could. Yeah, I mean, I think he could. Like, not every, but again, that is on the low end for outside wide receivers. There are not a lot of that's like Tyler Lockett size.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if he's Tyler Lockett level.
So we shall see.
22 of his 35 receptions have been caught 9 or fewer yards down the field. I don't think he's this explosive deep threat that maybe he's being billed as. All right, Garrett Wilson, he's the number 9 overall player on his draft board, wide receiver 2. Then he has Drake London at wide receiver 3. 3 receivers in his top 10. That is, like you said, moving this receiving class way up, and he has even more receivers loaded in this top 25. I know we're high on Drake. I know we're high on Garrett Wilson, obviously, but I think you kind of hinted at it, but is this wide receiver class like 3 receivers in the top 10 levels, or does that kind of speak to the depth of the rest of the class?
Well, then he's got 4 in the top 12. Like 4 wide receivers in the top 12 would put this above the last 2 years, like in terms of wide receiver talent top. That if you have 4 wide receivers in the top 12, there were 3 kind of blue chip guys last year. There were 3 kind of blue chip guys the year before. They were a tier of 3, but there weren't 4. And if you have 4 in the top 12, that's basically what you're saying is there's 4 guys in this class worthy of top 10 to 15 picks. And man, I don't see that. Now, I like these guys. I'm not going to go shit on Drake London or Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave. I think they're talented guys, but just compare them to Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle from last year. And I don't think any of these 4 that he has listed here hold a candle to any of them. They're more in the Elijah Moore tier, these guys, in that I like them as prospects. But I'm not going to go out on a limb and say, that's top 10 sort of pick.
No, I would agree with you. I think this is a not as loaded as the 4 receivers in the top 12 type of class. So at 11, he has Devin Lloyd, and I kind of pause there. So Devin Lloyd was not ranked on his previous draft board, now ranked at 11. 6'3", 235. I put in my notes here. Long arms, gets off blocks. I think he's explosive as well. I think there has been some times where I think when he hit some of his negative grades this year, I think he's only had 7 negatively graded plays so far this year or something along those lines, have been maybe being a bit too hesitant, maybe being a bit too patient and getting lost in some of the wave of the blocks here. But when he is on a line, he's making a lot of plays in coverage and as a run defender.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up as linebacker 1 in PFF draft board just because he is. Now, I don't think he's elite athlete. I think he's a good athlete, 3 down.
I put good enough juice.
Yeah, good enough. Like he's a 3 down linebacker for sure. But he's not going to be Devin White. He's not going to be Patrick Queen even. But I think he's better at football right now than those guys were coming out of LSU. So
that is a very good take. And I think I was thinking about this. Devin Bush, Devin White, Patrick Queen. We're chasing these like speedy freaks at linebacker. Have we overcorrected in chasing that? And like, hey, let's get back to some of these guys that haven't, I'll put in my notes, have enough juice, but are actually really talented football players. I'm not saying Queen and White aren't, but like, is it necessary to be a top 3% athlete at the position to even be considered a first-round pick?
Well, I do think to a degree. I think the most egregious example of that, I'm not sure it was egregious, but like Jamin Davis going 19 was just that guy can fly. You're banking on basically that guy is a different level athlete and hoping that he develops into a linebacker. Whereas the thing is there's not a lot of great corollaries of guys who are very good at football and also good enough athletes. I think Reuben Foster coming out was probably the last one to be so, but he's a different case in that like he wasn't a pure 4-5 guy. He probably ran the 4-6s, but then obviously he doesn't fall to the back end of the first round because of that. That is not why, So,
all right, let's continue to move down Mel Kiper Jr.'s draft board here. At 12, he has Chris Olave, as we already mentioned, and then Jordan Davis, who wasn't ranked on his last draft board. The big, monstrous defensive tackle for Georgia, 6'6", 340. I put in my notes here on maybe not from an athleticism standpoint, but there is some like Vince Wilfork vibes with this guy's tape because this guy is a legitimate house. And talk about a guy with very few negatively graded plays. The only few negatively graded plays you're seeing on Jordan Davis's tape is the few times they move so laterally that he's not able to catch up. But there's some times where you see linemen trying to reach block Jordan Davis and they just can't get around his ass. Yeah. It's not that he's like blowing him off the line. And when Jordan Davis is moving laterally, it's not like, oh my God, this guy's got juice, but he's so fucking big that other linemen are like trying to just get a piece of him and it's not working. And there's this double team he splits against Arkansas where you're just like, what the hell? He is a monster. And if you're looking for that like high end, I'm not saying he's Vita Vea, but if you're looking for a Vita Vea type size person, that's Jordan Davis, and he's played really well against the run so far for Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, he really is freakishly sized human being to be able to move the way he does at 6'6", 340. Now, can he move like that for 50 snaps in a game is what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
It's like he has played 91 snaps in 5 games as a starter there for Georgia. And I get that Georgia's loaded with talent. They don't need him to be there on the field every single play.
And I would say he's somewhat situational from a skill set perspective. He's not blowing people off the line and rushing the passer with a lot of success.
Yeah. Although I do think like at that size and with how gifted he is athletically, you're at a higher plane in terms of like it's not going to be that hard for him to develop 1-2 moves to all of a sudden affect the passing game. But I still do worry it's like guys that size just you don't know until you see them play more snaps. Now, Vita Vea played around, I want to say 50% of his snaps last year at Washington. And Jordan Davis isn't even at that for this Georgia defense. Is like the worrisome thing is that he's not even sniffing. He's a part-time player right now. And like I said, Georgia can allow that. And he did play 28 snaps against Clemson when it was, a close, tight game and looked good in that game, obviously. But it's a little different, 28 snaps in one game versus 40 snaps, 17 weeks of a season.
Do you view him right now as a first rounder?
You would just be hard pressed to me. Now, obviously, it depends on the class. I think he's that talented. I think he's that good. You would just be hard pressed for me to put a gun to my head and say, hey, draft this guy in the first round when we've seen how the defensive tackle position, like run defenders, you can get in the third, fourth round. Maybe they're not going to look like Jordan Davis, but you can get those guys later. And with all the sort of concerns I have with a guy that size, consistently being able to play, like I said, on downs that matter, third downs, I think other positions I might take a shot at.
2 small school positions next here are small school prospects. Trevor Penning, offensive tackle out of Northern Iowa, and then Malik Willis, the quarterback out of Liberty. His QB1, your QB1. Let's start with Penning. You really like Penning.
Yeah.
And he has him even ranked ahead of Linderbaum, who I remember when we were talking, I think it was one of these shows that we were doing, you said, Tyler Penning might be the highest drafted player out of Iowa. We're like, are you kidding? Linderbaum? You're like, wait, yeah, maybe you're right. But now Penning ranked ahead of Linderbaum here at 14. Talk to me more about him.
Yeah, I mean, he's super physical. I'm just like hesitant on guys who are like that at the FCS level because, well, shit, it's easy to look that way when you're playing guys who won't play in the NFL, and it's just like that level of competition. So he's a guy I'm hoping you get to see at a postseason, Showcase Bowl, Shrine Bowl, something like that, to see what he looks like against, actual guys who will also play in the NFL. So I'm hesitant on that, but he really is his tape is pretty dominant for that level of football.
And Malik Willis, QB1, 15th overall player. Are you expecting?
That's like where we see him in the quarterback class at this point.
Yeah.
It's just what it is.
No surprises in the quarterback class for sure. I mean, not having any of them ranked inside the top 15, I think, or top 10, and having Malik Willis QB1 is common or similar to what we see right now. Tyler Linderbaum ranked at 16. He was previously unranked, now 16th on the Iowa Center on Mel Kiper Jr.'s draft board. Then Nicholas Petit-Frere, offensive tackle for Ohio State. Have you been impressed with him so far this season? I know he's graded well, and he's a former 5-star, like a ton of talent. I think he's someone that maybe we not forgot, but maybe lost in this offensive tackle class with some of the other guys. But Petit-Frere playing well. Yeah,
we don't talk about him a ton, but I mean that it's a first-round type of tackle. He's 31 on the PFF draft board. He's probably, in terms of tackles, I feel good about in pass protection early on in their careers. I mean, Evan Neal is obviously OT1 for us. Kenyon Green we have as OT2, but he's more of a project. Ike Ekwonu we have as OT3 right now, but I'd rather have him at guard. I think he's going to be a guard at the next level. And then Petit-Frere is OT4 there. But I think I'd rather take him right away if I'm saying between him and Kenyon Green, who's more ready right now. I'd take Petit-Frere.
Wow. And you like Kenyon Green at tackle, not guard.
Yeah, I think I like him at tackle better. Now, arm length, I think is the concern there, I want to say. But he's more than athletic enough to do it. And I honestly like how his athleticism plays better on the edge.
He has Treylon Burks, the Arkansas wide receiver, down from 12 to 18. Still, the 5th receiver inside the top 18 on this draft board here. And I would argue, I would take Treylon Burks, 6'3", 225, over Jahan Dotson.
Like quarter of the top 20 is wide receivers. That's insane.
That's wild. But I would take Burks over Dotson.
Yeah. I mean there's vastly different types of wide receivers though, is the thing. And yeah, Burks is ahead on the PFF draft board. I just think him as a size, speed, catch radius guy, like he has things will work out well in the NFL. Whereas Dotson, it's like if he goes and you're asking him to be your X wide receiver, and now roles in the NFL in terms of just like pure X don't exist as much. It's more skill sets, putting you in roles to succeed, that sort of thing. But yeah, there's a reason we have Burks hired.
After Treylon Burks, number 19, Roger McCreary, cornerback Auburn. He's a guy that we're also high on. He has him ahead of Kaiir Elam and other cornerbacks, Trent McDuffie, that we've talked about more on this show. I think the biggest difference for me that I've seen from last year's tape is he's playing with a lot more confidence, a lot more physicality. I think you saw that show up against Alabama State, where he picked off that wide receiver screen and like practically run the route for him. He's had a lot of success this season. I think there are some times where I feel McCreary needs his hands on guys to stay in coverage. There are some times where he's in off coverage and he gives up more separation. But overall, I think it's been a very impressive start. And I think that's what Mel Kiper was speaking to at the 19th selection.
Yeah, McCreary's risen up PFF draft board. Another guy who outside the top 50 start, now inside the top 50, probably working his way up even higher as well. So, yeah.
Matt Corral, Ole Miss quarterback, rising up to 20 on his draft board, QB2 in this class. And then Adam Anderson, a guy we've talked about a ton, comes in at 21. I think he'll end up higher in the 2022 NFL draft. Daniel Faalele, though, number 22 overall player, the 6'9", 380-pound monster out of Minnesota.
He's just trying to do the Jordan Mailata take, just saying it's going to develop. And now he could. I mean, he is rare. We overuse the term rare. He's rare. Like 6'9", 380 with moving like he does. I haven't seen it. We haven't seen it, at the NFL level. So that is truly a different dude. But he's also like, you're that physically gifted and you're not dominating college players. It's like, now I get it. It's a skill position. It's something that needs to develop. He's played football for 4 years. So it's hard to knock him too much. But I would just, 22 overall, you should be getting a guy you're like, this is a good player. Faalele plays in the NFL tomorrow. He wouldn't be a good player.
I think you are drafting Faalele hoping that he develops at a Mailata-like curve. I think he even speaks to this in his analysis. There's a lot to like about Faalele's ceiling, and that is obvious. He's 6'9", fucking 308 pounds. If he develops even 20, 30, 40 percentage points better than where he is now, he's going to be dominant in the NFL. It's just those types of prospects too, and those types of projects. You're going to hate me saying this, but there is a lot to hearing. What they're developing, what their practice schedule's like, how they've gotten to where they've gotten, and how coachable they are, and all those things. Especially if you're going to take them in the first round. If you're going to take a player that you have to completely reshape in the first round, the guy better be receptive to coaching and absolutely committed on and off the field.
Yeah.
And that's what. And case in point, Mailata. Mailata was the guy that when you see these interviews and you hear people talk to him, it's like this guy is 100% committed to being the best, one of the best offensive tackles in the NFL, and right now is grading in the top 12 at his position. He's been fantastic. So
that's also something we say about when a guy has a legitimate excuse for being a project, where it's like when a guy has played football his entire life and is still a project. Sometimes it's because he's not working to develop. Well, he's not like Isaiah Wilson. It's like he's not fucking putting in the work to develop. He's
putting in the
freak. He's putting in the work at a drive-through in southern Mississippi. But no. That's something we talk about a lot, that why is he a project? Daniel Faalele has a very obvious reason why he's a project.
Number 23, watching this guy's tape, I fucking like this guy.
Jermaine
Johnson, Florida State defensive end, 6'5", 260. That size shows up in week 1 in his first game against Notre Dame. Played a lot of 2-point stance, square to line of scrimmage. They finally puts his hand in the ground in a handful of these other games and has been kind of reckless. I was surprised he's graded so low. He's had a high percentage of positively graded plays, a very low percentage of negatively graded plays. And the thing I came away with too is that this guy's a legitimate fucking Iron Man. He's playing so many damn snaps for Florida State. He plays every single snap for them.
That's probably why he's grading low.
Yeah, it's probably because he has such a high snap volume. He's played so many snaps so far this season. I think you turn on the tape against Louisville and Jacksonville State, he is absolutely turning kids around with his moves. And I think he wins with his hands a lot too. I think Jermaine Johnson, this is the first time I watched him, admittedly. This was a fucking sweet-ass start to his season.
Yeah, so he's already played 312 snaps in 5 games. And
that's absurd.
Yeah. So he hadn't played more than 214 in a season prior to this. So admittedly, I can cut a guy some slack for maybe wearing down a little bit. But he is agile. He is long. And he's a guy who definitely has moved up boards. And it's insane to think that he transferred from Georgia because he wasn't getting playing time. Like this is, if you're talking about how loaded Georgia is, the 23rd player on Mel Kiper's draft board had to transfer out of Georgia to play, the 23rd ranked player, because he wasn't going to play there because they have too much time.
That's absurd.
I know.
That's absurd. He's averaging 63 snaps played per game, which is like, for a defensive end, like you do not see that many snaps played commonly. Yeah. That is insane. Andrew Booth Jr., the cornerback for Clemson, comes in at 24. I think there have been some woes on Andrew Booth's tape so far this year, but that's another cornerback where I feel I come away really impressed with his physicality.
Yeah, he's physical, and his feet are his balance is just insane. Like you can't teach kind of the way he moves on the football field. You got or you don't. And so I'll take that chance on Booth, higher than even 24.
There's only one more note I have here after the top 25 player. He's got Spencer Rattler as the 25th ranked player. He previously had him as the 2nd ranked player.
Not the only one souring.
Yeah, that's rough, man. That's rough to see Spencer Rattler kind of fall from grace. Last thing I have is in his September 1st version of the draft board, he had Kyrie Elam as his cornerback too. I think he was top 10 as well, the Florida corner. And he's fallen all the way out of his top 5 corners, man. He's not in the top 25.
Well, no, he's 5th.
He's 5th. Sorry, he's 5th behind Derrick Stingley, Roger McCreary, Andrew Booth. Then he has Trent McDuffie, and then Kyrie Elam. Ahmad Gardner all the way down to 8, which is like the Kyrie Elam one blows me away, and then Ahmad Gardner too being behind fucking Josh Jobe. I don't know if that makes sense. I think, and we've been critics of Ahmad Gardner. We've said like he's too physical. We've said that's not going to play in the NFL if he hangs on guys. But still, he has shown up every game this year for number 5 Cincinnati. I don't know. I think it's going to be fun to follow. And I know a lot of our podcast listeners' favorite episodes are us going over some of this stuff. I think what's the most ludicrous thing you've seen? I think it's the Jahan Dotson ranking. I think that might be the craziest thing.
Yeah, I'm not even sure it's the Jahan Dotson ranking. It's just like the wide receivers in general.
Yeah.
How high he is on this class of wide receivers. And
how high he is? Sorry.
I could have gone deeper with that one, but no. Just the wide receiver class in general. Being 5 guys in the top 18, 4 in the top 12. And that's putting this wide receiver class in the air. Like I said, that is higher than last year's, higher than 2020, which were 2 of the best wide receiver classes. Any like Daniel Jeremiah is saying those 2 of the best wide receiver classes I've ever seen. He's saying this one's better, which is
I will continue to be stunned for as long as the 2 defensive backs, Stingley and Hamilton, are ranked ahead of Neal and Leal. I do think that eventually the linemen will move up boards, and they won't ultimately be the number 2, number 3 overall picks. I like Hamilton. I like Stingley.
Actually
picked. You could call them, the 2nd or 3rd best player, but when it comes to I don't think they're going to be picking safeties and corners in the top 3.
I think with what we saw on Monday Night Football, which we didn't touch on too much, but with Derwin James, how he can change a game, obviously game ender, in that one, people are going to want that. People are going to want that guy in Kyle Hamilton. People are going to see what Jalen Ramsey's doing for the Rams and say, we want that in Derek Stingley. Now, compared to, what an Evan Neal or Aiden Hutchinson can bring, those guys are just like, it's not every year. I shouldn't just say it's you see those guys and what they can do. It's because Hamilton and Stingley are that good.
Yeah.
Whereas Neal and Hutchinson in the annals of OT and DE prospects are not like Stingley and Hamilton in the annals of cornerback and safety prospects.
No, and I think that argument's fair. I just think I always bring it back to positional value. And, I'm not taking a safety at number 2, knowing how much they're paid per year versus taking – if you do feel Leal's a blue-chip player or Neal's a blue-chip player, I'm leaning those 2. I'm leaning Neal over Hamilton if I'm drafting number 2 overall, even if I think Hamilton's maybe a shade better. Because, I mean, fuck. The highest paid people in the NFL are fucking tackles. And if Evan Neal you think can be one of those guys, I think you do it. All right. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, has a Week 5 offer every football fan should jump on. New customers can bet just $1 on any NFL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. The last 0-0 tie in the NFL was 1943. So I'd say this is a no-brainer. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, DraftKings won't leave you empty-handed. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports Contest. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Throw $1 on any NFL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. That's promo code PFF at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 years or older in New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Before we get to your risers and fallers from college football Week 5, do you want to go over Monday Night Football recap? I kind of want to.
Oh, what do you want to say?
I am, you saw John Gruden after the game. They were like, are you going to do anything about this offensive line? No, I like the guys we have in there. Andre James, the guy that cut Rodney Hudson for and put in there, and they paid some money, is the lowest graded center in the NFL. Alex Leatherwood, and I'm not saying this is not a victory lap on Leatherwood, and no one should take one, but he's the lowest grade tackle in the NFL. And Alex Leatherwood's going to develop. He's not going to always be, he has the skills to develop into at least better than fucking that. Andre James, jury's still out. Jury's definitely still out. Colton Miller is probably the only high-performing offensive lineman along this line. That is causing Derek Carr problems. And then you see, this is where I really wanted to focus the conversation. Joey Bosa's comment on Derek Carr. You saw that?
Oh, I didn't.
Joey Bosa, let me find this actually word for word. But he said, for the most part, Joey Bosa said, Derek Carr, we know when he gets hit, he starts to get kind of scared. And you even saw that on that play where he curled up like a ball. He said curled up like a ball before whoever that defensive lineman tackled him. It's like, we knew we can get ahead. Then Joey Bosa finishes that quote with "Great player, great guy," but we know he can't play when he gets hit. That was absurd to me to let that loose.
Yeah, I mean that's great trash talk if you're gonna say that, and it's not something we haven't said either. He looked like after that ankle injury the entire next season, he was mortified of ever getting hit, and now it's subsided to a degree, but. What is it? Tiger can't change his stripes. Is that what the saying is again? He's still when it really is down bad, his offensive line, he shovels into a ball sometimes. So
I have the exact quote for you here.
All right.
He was actually in his bag. I have two quotes from this post-game press conference.
He was roasting the refs.
Yeah, I saw the refs. We know once we hit him a few times, Carr, he really gets shook. And you saw on Covington's sack, he was pretty much curling into a ball before you even got back there. Great dude, great player. But we know once you get pressure on him, he kind of shuts down. Dude, just completely teabags Derek Carr. And then on the refs, refs are blind. I'm sorry, but you're blind. Open your eyes and do your job. It's so bad. It's unbelievable. These guys have to do a better job because it's been years of terrible missed calls left and right. Back to focusing on the game more specifically, I do feel that the pressure got to Derek Carr. It got to this offense. They started their first half was 9 plays, 0 yards. 3 consecutive 3-and-outs in the first half. That isn't enough. And a lot of that is pressure. A lot of that is running on early downs. I don't know what the Raiders were doing. And then in the second half, when they start to chase these explosive plays where they do have some time, maybe because Joey Bosa's getting held, they do string together a handful of good downfield targets to Henry Ruggs, etc. Darren Waller with that nice contested touchdown. I do feel it was too little too late, though. Yeah. Your offense completely shit to start that game.
Yeah, I mean, did they think that Leatherwood was going to be able to block Bosa one-on-one? They didn't give him help early on. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, you're money down. You have no plan to account for the biggest mismatch in this entire game. That to me was surprising. And that cost him. I mean, that cost him.
And Justin Herbert looked phenomenal in this game, continued to dice them up. I was surprised they didn't throw the football more, but then you turn back on this tape, and both sides of the ball, the Chargers' offensive and defensive line was dominating the Raiders. I think Maxx Crosby had some success in this one, but in the run game, they had open holes for Austin Eckler and targeting down the field. They had their way. I mean, this showed the fatal flaws for the Las Vegas Raiders. What are the fatal flaws? Their offensive line stinks, and defensively, while it has been average this year, it has to maintain average for it to not go down 21-0 at half.
Well, yeah, they were very reliant early on in the fact that they were the front four was getting pressure on every single every offensive line they're facing, they're dominating. And yeah, Maxx Crosby's been very good this year. And shit, I think he has another little layup this upcoming week in their matchup. God, who they play? Chicago, exactly. There's going to have another monster week. But that's not like when you don't blitz at all. They blitz the least of any team in the NFL. You are solely reliant on that because they are still not a complete defense. They still have issues at every level, as we saw.
And they had two corners go down in this game. You know, they had Damon Arnett after getting torched go down in this game. Trayvon Mullen was hurt really early in this one. Going down to Amik Robertson, Nate Hobbs. This was not a talented secondary with the injuries there, and I think Justin Herbert picked them apart. It was, again, it put a magnifying glass to some of the fatal flaws that the Raiders have, that if they do, you know, there are some games where those can be masked, but when you go against talented teams, a team that I think is comfortably entering Super Bowl competitive. They are entering Super Bowl competitive. They are going toe-to-toe, in my opinion, with the Kansas City Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl in the AFC. That's how good the Chargers are. I said it after week 1 that they're legit.
Yeah.
All right. Some other news here. I wanted to hit on this as well before we get into the college football risers and fallers. One, Jaylon Smith released from the Dallas Cowboys. And then just now, Stephon Gilmore released from the New England Patriots.
Oh, I did not
see
that one coming.
2 veteran players released. I don't think a lot of people saw Jaylon Smith coming, but some did. He was not playing well over the last 2 years. He ranked 35th among all off-ball linebackers in PFF grades since 2020. But for Stephon Gilmore, you know, last year wasn't a banner year for him, and this year he's obviously been hurt. Mm-hmm. But I did not see him, you know, especially, you know, when you hear or talk to a lot of the Patriots beat writers, how much he means from a leadership standpoint to this team. I think that's really surprising that they let him go.
Yeah. And now he obviously was in a contract dispute with Patriots. I wonder if there was some bad blood behind the scenes after the injury or whatever, and they're just like, rather than, you know, have that guy in the lock, have that guy being, to quote Urban Meyer, distraction, they just let him go. So I wonder who he's going to end up. Is the thing now.
Tampa? I mean, they need a corner, man. Carlton Davis could be out for a while. I mean, I don't know if you listened to the Richard Sherman podcast. Richard Sherman's talking about like next man up mentality. They're gonna have to start, you know, Ross Cockrell, Sherman.
If they fucking get Stephon Gilmore, what is the rest of the league doing? Just letting them.
But why wouldn't Stephon Gilmore want to go?
Well, yeah, I mean, probably would, but
I think they should.
I mean, yeah, they should, but every fucking team should. I mean, Stephon Gilmore, for as, you know, much as it was a down year from him, is still a very good cornerback last year.
Oh, a lot better than what these people, you know, a lot of teams are trotting out right now. All right, let's get to your college football Week 5 risers. Start with your first guy.
Yes, we're going to throw it to Brian Robinson Jr., a guy we talked about if he had declared last year, would have been early day 3 type of running back. He goes in against Ole Miss. Like, it is surprising how similar he looks to Najee Harris, just running style-wise. 36 carries, 171 yards, 4 touchdowns, 11 broken tackles. They had whatever they wanted offensively. That game was over at halftime, and Brian Robinson Jr. making himself some money in the process.
Kind of an older running back prospect, right?
Yeah, redshirt senior. I mean, he was the same year as Najee Harris. They came in together, I believe, to Alabama, and so he was second fiddle to him literally his entire career.
Yeah.
Which has to suck. Because I think I said last year, he's at any other school in the country, he is your bell cow. He gets 300-plus carries.
It's like Rashad Penny behind Chris Carson in Seattle.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, because Rashad Penny.
Or Rashad Penny behind Donald Pumphrey in San Diego State.
Yeah, that's true too. Hey, don't bring up Rashad Penny in a negative light here. Can I say this? Brian Robinson Jr., talented back, 30 missed tackles so far this year. After watching, and I know you have a segment on this show that you want to talk about running backs. I am completely out. I'm out, gone, zilch, on any running back that doesn't run like at least like a low 4.4, 4.3. Like you see some of these guys out here that are running in the late 4.4s, 4.5s. Najee, Josh Jacobs, struggling to have like legitimate like explosive success. And like Najee Harris and Josh Jacobs have both had success so far in their young careers. Like Josh Jacobs, you know, could have won Offensive Rookie of the Year if it wasn't always given to a quarterback. But I don't think the lack of juice is worthy of any first-round selection. Obviously, you can start to select them later, day 2, day 3, but I am not taking a first-round running back unless they're fast. That is the difference in the NFL. Every single other position is trying to get faster. Tight end, receiver, even offensive tackles are trying to get faster. Why would you start to now get slower at the running back position and tack these guys that are like running the 4.5 range?
No, I don't think you're wrong. And it also comes as a receiver, too. Like, it's difficult to
create separation.
Yeah. So, no, I wouldn't. Obviously, wouldn't draft any running back first round, but especially not one who runs in the 4.6s.
No, that's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Next on your list, Isaiah Likely. We've talked about him a bit. He's the Coastal Carolina tight end. Everyone in Coastal Carolina kind of moving up boards here. I think a lot of people like Grayson McCall too. I continue to hear that Grayson McCall is people's guy.
Who?
Can't give names. Can't give names. But a lot of people like Grayson McCall, and I like Grayson McCall too. If you're going to run option in the NFL, but go ahead and talk to me about Isaiah Likely.
Yeah, Likely, man. 6'4", 240, an undersized tight end. But you see him in this game getting open deep, getting open at the intermediate level, catching balls outside of his frame. Love his ball skills. 5 catches, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns against Louisiana Monroe. Now, can he block? Probably not. He's going to continue to have to put on muscle. But what he has receiving-wise is probably about as good as any of the tight ends in this upcoming class. And we had Eric Galko on, and he said, loaded tight end class. There might not be a first or second rounder, but it's loaded. And I think that's a very good way to describe Likely. I don't think he's a first or second rounder, but he has receiving ability that is not always prevalent for 6'4", 240 pounders.
We won't see a first round tight end maybe until next year, 2023, when your boy goes in. Michael Mayer.
That could be a loaded class. You got the 2 Georgia guys and Mayer.
That will be a fun one. Next on your list, before we get to that, I wanted to bring up on the Richard Sherman podcast as well, he had Von Miller on. And Von Miller, they spent some of the conversation on pass rush versus coverage and how the NFL has changed on defense and these things. And Von Miller spent like a good 5 minutes on the podcast talking about move tight ends and receiving tight ends. It's like these tight ends are getting lighter and smaller and faster, and it's forcing defenses to run more dime and run more defensive back heavy stuff because you're getting mismatches everywhere. You're getting mismatches when these tight ends come on. You run on 11 personnel, but you have 4 guys that can create legit separation and have legit explosiveness. That is changing how defenses play. And I think Isaiah Likely fills in that mold, and it kind of hits on what I'm saying about the running back position as well. The offense is trying to chase speed and athleticism and explosiveness. Yeah. How many offensive and defensive coordinators do you talk about every single week about limiting and getting explosive plays? You're not going to fucking get that with a 4-6 back. You need to go get your explosive plays with these faster guys and with these move tight ends like Isaiah.
Yeah, that's what we say a lot about the tight end position. It's like if a guy runs a 4.8, don't draft him. I don't care how good he is underneath.
And you cut him when he starts running a 4.8 because I think you see some tight ends too that are drafted in and then it's like okay, they don't have it anymore. You don't have it.
But it's just if you have a route tree that in and of itself is limited, that limits you as an offensive play caller. Like if you're not going to run Kyle Rudolph on a vertical, you're not going to split him out wide and create a mismatch. Like that doesn't exist for guys like that. That's the guys you want are the ones that can do those things. And if you're running a 4.8, every linebacker in the NFL is going to be in your hip pocket on a seam route.
I mean, linebackers too are trying to get faster as well. Next guy on your list, I know our Cincinnati faithful are going to be fans of it. He's also a Bruce Owens Freaks List guy. Alec Pierce, wide receiver for Cincinnati, 6'3", 215. Move the chains. Move. Cincinnati Bearcats, your number 5 Bearcats, just coming off an upset over Notre Dame in South Bend. I'm all in. Alec Pierce.
We tell the story about how a guy tweeted about so our friends came to the game. They're Cincinnati fans to the Cincinnati Notre Dame game. And some guy tweeted about how obnoxious they were cheering. It's like, I want Cincinnati to lose just so this guy is upset. And I couldn't agree more with that sentiment. They were probably obnoxious.
That chant, the Move the Change chant, is one that they've made up.
Yes.
And
they say it after
they say every single first down.
So I can agree that is annoying. But Alec Pierce in this game, 6'3", 213, 2 go balls. He is the guy. He reminds me a lot of Donovan Peoples-Jones, where it's like, I'm not sure he's a great route runner. I'm not sure he's a versatile type of wide receiver, but he is very explosive and big. And that is a vertical route tree kind of guy. And I think he has pretty good ball skills too. So you're not getting a complete type of wide receiver in Alec Pierce, but there's also not a lot of guys who are 6'3", 213 running in the 4.4s with like 40-inch verticals, and he is one of them. So I think he'll go kind of where DPJ was. DPJ, 5th rounder. I think you'll see Pierce be like a 4th, 5th rounder, that kind of guy.
You have another Cincinnati guy on here too.
Ahmad Gardner. I mean, he was locked down his side of the field. Now the pick was one of the worst throws I've ever seen in my entire life. That was when I knew things were going to go bad. So that was not really Ahmad Gardner. That ball was thrown to him. I think Jack Cohen may have mistaken him for a Notre Dame player.
He
That's
did.
how bad it was. But the rest of the game, 3 targets, 9 yards.
That's what I'm saying. My biggest
Just they couldn't even go at
they didn't even throw at him.
Yeah. And they were coverage-wise, he was to the single wide receiver side every time. And that's like where you can get your better matchups. And they didn't even have to bring a safety over. Like the safety was shading to the other side. So they would just basically say, hey, throw at Ahmad Gardner if you want. Please do it. And they just didn't because they couldn't.
Sauce Gardner Island. They were also gaining yards on Kobe Bryant, the other cornerback for Cincinnati. I think they were trying to pick on him a little bit. But Sauce Gardner, man, that was really impressive. I think we had the end zone view of the all-22 where our seats were, and like you just lock in on Ahmad Gardner, he was not giving up an inch of separation on that single receiver side. Before we get to a few more risers here, wanted to bring up Western and Southern, a proud sponsor of the Tailgate Podcast. While you focus on your roster moves, Western and Southern is going to help you make your money moves. Buying your first home, planning to start a family, wondering how to make your money grow? Western and Southern's playbook of life insurance, investment, and retirement solutions helps you rest assured on game day. Team up to identify your needs and address your goals with a game plan built just for you. Get started at westernsouthern.com/PFF. Here comes Georgia, another fucking player. Devontae Wyatt, another riser on PFF's draft board, wears number 95 for Georgia, 6'3", 315, a literal monster. I want to play like the Shane Beamer post-game press conference clip after every single time we bring up Georgia's defensive line, where he's just like, they got 6 5-star recruits. They're talented. They all weigh 350 pounds. And on top of all that, they're good. And he's just like screaming at the top of his lungs. I mean, that's what they have. I mean, Tremaine Johnson, like you said, transferring from this team. And he's a top 25 player on Mel Kiper Jr.'s draft board. Devontae Wyatt, another talent along that defensive line.
Yeah. You could put anyone from Georgia's front seven. That was a bloodbath. That was one of the most dominant front seven performances you'll see in college football. Wyatt being part and parcel of it. 3 pressures, 2 sacks on the day, only 10 pass rushing snaps. He really only played 20 snaps and was pretty much every single one of them making an impact because he was 6'3", 315, and the guy's a legit athlete. The guy might run like a 4.9. That guy is explosive off the ball. Now, he is a redshirt senior, has been good, not great, 72.9 grade last year in 2020, but he's at 87.6 now in this game against Arkansas, 90.4 overall grade, like a legit down-to-down impact player who I think offers more as a pass rusher than Jordan Davis does at the NFL level. I'll say that.
Oh my gosh! I just got tagged in this tweet. I have to bring it up. Bruce Arians on offense or on defensive end. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka.
Is he fun to watch?
He's fun to watch. Oh, Bruce Arians calling his own guy fun to watch, which is true. I mean, I'm not saying it's not true. It's fun to watch. I can't believe we got turned down and changed the name of the podcast to Fun to Watch. That was a great name. All right, Viliami Fehoko.
Yes.
The San Jose State edge. What the fuck is this guy? He plays like the Tasmanian devil. Yeah. His pass rush moves are frenetic. He is, I mean, I got like some Hercules Mataafa vibes where he's just kind of out there swinging, and it's working. I mean, this pass, even in 2020, he earned an 87.0 PFF grade so far this year, 74.6 PFF grade with 21 total pressures. But where my concern showed up, and I loved how he was getting there. He's winning violently. He was winning fast. What is this frame? I was blown away to find out that he's actually 6'4". He looks smaller than that, but wider. He's kind of like got this Curtis Weaver body type where it's kind of funky. I guess start there for me on the funky Viliami Fehoko body type.
Yeah. I mean, he looks like a defensive tackle kind of shrunk a little bit.
His arms aren't that long either, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a weird frame.
It's an interesting frame. But he, like you said, plays like his hair is on fire. I wonder if he was hurt to start the year because, I mean, against Southern Utah, I remember flipping on the tape being, like, super excited. And he earned a 47.0 grade against Southern Utah. Like, he was not explosive, only played 25 snaps. I wonder if he was hampering something because you don't get disclosure of injuries at the collegiate level. But the past 2 games, 6 pressures against Western Michigan, 11 pressures this past week against New Mexico State. Down in, down out, doing the most all the time. Like, it out of control completely, for sure. But the guy has no off switch. Like you said, plays like his hair is on fire and literally looks like it with the fro coming out the back. Yeah,
the hair out the back. We've talked about hair out the back of helmets. It makes you look more excited to play.
You're more of you're high motor.
If you have long hair and you don't get the high motor tab,
or runs hard as a running back, you
probably should.
Yeah.
Let's just call a spade a spade. All right, Fedarian Mathis. Another monster. Yes. Here come the monsters right down Santa Claus Lane. 6'4", 312. 90.7 PFF grade so far this year. And in every single game this year, his PFF grade has improved. 90.8 pass rushing grade against Ole Miss. 2 total pressures. That's when you know you're winning early in the snap. We're getting, forcing legitimate havoc. This is a really impressive player. Another guy where has improved every single year of his career at Alabama.
Yeah, so senior at Alabama, you kind of saw flashes last year. Like, he is linearly explosive dude. He has that to his game at 6'4", 312. He's just not agile. He is a very straight line player. That's kind of what Raekwon Davis was coming out of Alabama, where it's just like, man, like you see him try to, even in this game against Ole Miss, see him try to even corral Matt Corral. Yikes, I didn't even try to do that.
You need to leave.
But you see him try to corral Matt Corral. And, like, he can't. He could sit there for 2 hours on a football field, not touch Matt Corral once. But he can also fire up field against an opposing offensive lineman and them not touch him either, because he is that quick off the ball. So, like what I've seen a lot from Darren Mathis, this one, obviously Alabama's entire defense dominated in that game.
On to the fallers here. Are we ready to talk Matt Corral?
Okay. I wanted to talk Matt Corral.
I
don't think he was a faller.
He's not a faller?
Was not a faller after this past week. If you go back and watch the tape, the stats, shit. But he is not a faller. He was not. That was one of the worst opportunities. It reminded me of some Daniel Jones games back at Duke, where it's like, I don't know what you do there. Like, I don't know what he could have done.
Your offensive line's getting pancaked.
Obviously, the game being out of hand so early, the one thing that he maybe could have done, take some more chances in one-on-ones. But it's like, even if he was doing that, they were not good chances. His guys were not winning on go routes. It's an offense that is like slants, go routes, RPOs. It's not an offense where it's like, progress to this or that, like, guy's going to beat his own. It's like, no, guys have to win at some point, and guys were not, and especially their offensive linemen were not. So I'm not sure what he could have done better there. 18 pressures on 36 dropbacks, and that's with him getting the ball out of his hands in 2.59 seconds. That is a swift time to throw to be pressured on half your dropbacks. So Matt Corral didn't play great. I mean, obviously didn't. It's not a game where it's going to be like, oh, wow, go back and look at that tape against Alabama. That was impressive. But didn't have a turnover-worthy play. Didn't make mistakes with the football. Put the ball where it was supposed to be when he had chances. Just shit. Dude did not have a lot of chances in that game. Let's call it what it is. So I honestly came away a little more impressed that he didn't fall in the tank, because it would have been very easy to, with how bad it was,
throw like 6 picks.
Exactly. Just start making bad decisions with the football, and he did not.
How much of this was Lane Kiffin dropping the mic pregame and saying, get your popcorn ready? Because I honestly think that was a factor. He came out after and said that was rude, watching it back or whatever the hell. I loved it. And I bet fucking Ole Miss right after. Bet Ole Miss after I saw it, because I needed it.
It was, he has to recruit 24/7. That was, how can you watch that?
He's always on.
Exactly. You watch that as a prospect,
I was ready to.
Would you rather go to that or to Nick Saban, who obviously is a quiet killer and obviously was probably fuming and wanted to, like, murder Kiffin himself, but would never say so publicly?
I put my application in now, Ole Miss, after he said that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to walk on, but I'm going to try. John Metchie, another faller. I think a lot of people hyped him up. He was fast, and he played for Bama.
That's all you need.
And that's,
well, it was more he was now going to be the guy.
But that was the third pick, and now he's going to be the guy. And now that he has been the guy, he has not exploded. I don't think he's played terribly, but he has not exploded to where, you've seen the other receivers.
John Dotson going to 8th overall on
yeah.
Mel Kiper draft board. He hasn't done that. And some people thought he would be the guy that did that. And 1 deep reception this year, on pace for fewer yards than he had last year. Only 275 yards on 27 catches. Just the explosive plays. That's what, just over 10 yards a catch. That's been gone. He averaged 16.7 last year. He had 916 yards last year as the second fiddle in that offense, or third fiddle for the first handful of games with Jaylon Waddle there. So, yeah, I thought he would take the next step. Have not seen it from Metchie. Only 3 catches, 35 yards against Ole Miss.
One of my favorite names in college football, UTSA running back Sincere McCormick, falling on PFF's draft board. 5'9", 205, 18 broken tackles on the season, averaging, and this is a barometer in college football and in the NFL. We always look for over 3 yards after contact per carry. You're always looking to kind of gain, that's like a good back. You see that from a lot of talented backs in the NFL. Just 2.24 yards after contact per carry, going against UNLV, one of the worst programs in the country. 1.32 average yards after contact in that game per attempt, and only 2 forced missed tackles. Sincere McCormick, the small guy out of UTSA, going down.
Yeah, so after 1,462 yards last year at UTSA and 250 carries, like he was an explosive home run hitter, but he was like 5'9", 195. He's an undersized back. He has, in my opinion, put on either bad weight or weight that he couldn't put on for his frame to where he is not explosive anymore. Broke 2 tackles on 28 carries this past week against UNLV.
It's trash.
Like it was not good. He had 85 yards on 28 carries, one of the most absurd stat lines you'll see from a college running back. That just like never happens. But he is their best player, and they're trying to feed him, and he's just not the same guy that we saw last year. I don't know if he's injured, if it's ankle or whatever, hampering something, but man, he is not. None of his rate stats are even close to what we saw, and that's usually not how it works for a guy who's a rising junior. This is junior year, so unfortunate to see from him so far this season because I had high hopes. In the running back class, like I said, that's not anything special. Thought he could be in the mix. He's not, though.
The blazing start for Will Levis, quarterback of Kentucky, has faded.
Screeching halt.
The flame has faded, and we're going to LSU, Kentucky. Are you wearing Kentucky gear or LSU gear today?
Kentucky gear. You should.
Okay. I'll get some Kentucky gear. I was going to wear LSU gear. Sorry. They're 5-0. They're going to what?
You were going to wear LSU gear?
I was thinking about it.
Are you doucher? Don't do that. At a home stadium?
Fair enough. We're also going to UC
undefeated
Temple.
Wildcats? Come on. Yeah.
UC Temple on Friday. Come out if you are in Cincinnati. Cincinnati's 29-point favorite. Should be a good game. And then we're also going to go to LSU, Kentucky, where Kentucky are 3-point favorites, and they're actually got some value on Green Line. So if you're looking to bet some cheddar, put it on Will Levis.
But it's not because of Will Levis.
So he started the season off with a 91.9 PFF grade, 3 big-time throws. And the 2 games after that, 80.4 PFF grade and a 56.1 PFF grade against Chattanooga, where he had 2 big-time throws and 4 turnover-worthy plays. Then over the past 2 weeks against South Carolina and Florida, 0 big-time throws, low PFF grades. Has not been the same guy.
Yeah, in danger of getting benched, for real here. 7-17 for 87 yards against Florida. And it was not – this wasn't the Matt Corral situation I was just talking about. He had opportunities. He's just blowing them left and right. A ton of missed throws on his tape, a ton of late to a lot of stuff to where the guy's an arm. The guy's a legit live arm. And he's 6'3", 232 and can move. Like he has NFL tools. He looked like goddamn Bo Nix though this past week. Sadly.
Oh no, Bo Nix just beat LSU on a 9 p.m. kick.
Okay,
shade Bo Nix.
Will Levis is about to beat LSU on the 7:30.
Hey, ease up. All right, let's go to the last faller here. Jake Haener. Haener, I barely know her. Fresno State quarterback coming off a 6 turnover-worthy play game against Hawaii. I said UNLV is one of the worst programs in the country. Hawaii is down there, down bad, down horrendous. I will say this, 6 turnover plays, there is the Hawaii factor. Traveling to Hawaii is not fucking easy. From Cali, it's a 5-hour flight. Your whole sleep schedule gets wrecked, and you get some hula dancing in. This thing's not going to be easy. I do think the Hawaii, if this game's at Fresno State, I think it's a little bit different.
Okay, sure, I'll give that to you. But he also had 6 turnover plays, and he looked like he had no.
You ever been to Hawaii?
So I have actually. It's fantastic. I recommend it to anyone. But I wish I could live there, but it's just so far away and it's actually very expensive.
You're on an island,
That's what they say. But he had no recourse for 8-man, 3-man rush, dropping 8. Hawaii did that all game long, and Haener just continued to miss defenders and continued to not be able to read the whole field to see where guys were, and that's concerning to say the least. He was one of the toast of college football. He had his lowest passing grade before this game was 71.5 in 5 games. Had a couple games up around 90. He was making big time throws left and right. That game against UCLA down the stretch was insane what he did. This one was disastrous. This one was damn near, it was undraftable tape. Now obviously he still could be a draftable prospect, but you're not seeing that and having him sniff any early round. And especially for a guy who's 6'1", 195, he is not your prototype at the position. Now he has the live arm, but he's not going to be that guy. So probably not good for him moving forward.
Problematic. I'm going to throw the tape out on here. We see this play again on the mainland, bro. Then I'm a little bit
What happens in Hawaii stays in Hawaii?
What happens in Hawaii stays in Hawaii. Absolutely. That's a tough place to play. I honestly think it's fucking different. All right. Either way, Jake Haener, I do think that if you see another game like this against a team, he gets into that undraftable range. All right, bust watch. Before we get to our bust watch here, and you have a host of names.
Yeah.
I got my favorite sponsor. I'll say it, my favorite sponsor on the show. It's football season, baby. And you know what that means. It means we're going to go for 2 here with the sponsors of today's show, Manscaped. Blitzing through hairs has never been easier, and it's time you join 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using code PFF at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping. It's 3 and out the window with all other trimmers. Now go tame that Wildcat offense. Now, I don't pride myself. I'm not, I dress kind of like a homeless person. Where I treat myself is with the Manscaped 4.0 lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, okay? Because this thing is a fucking porcelain sink down low. And that's because of this thing. This is what we have. The Lawnmower 4.0, the brand new Lawnmower 4.0 is here to take your defense to the next level. This 4th-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction on-off switch can engage travel lock, and gives you the ability to turn on 4,000 LED light on and off when you need a more precise shave or you're shaving in the dark. Did I mention this trimmer is waterproof too? Rain, snow, sleet, match for the waterproof, no match for the waterproof power of the 4.0. There's no 15-yard penalty on this clipping. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code at PFF at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with your free shipping at manscaped.com. And use code PFF. Stiff arm your pubes out the playoffs this year with Manscaped. I still think that's the best one. They should put that one earlier in the read. Stiff arm your pubes. Let's stiff arm this next
I would hope
segment.
you're not trying to trim your pubes with your arm completely locked out. That would be a difficult reach.
Yeah, that's tough. All right. Bus
you have to be in a weird position. Yes. I'm going to be that guy here real quick.
I love it.
I'm going to do the PFF thing.
I'm excited.
And talk about first-round running backs. I'm going to do it because they're playing like shit right now.
Before you do,
okay.
Can you acknowledge that they're human beings and you don't hate them? Because that's what a lot of people think.
I think they should have switched positions to linebacker. They're exceedingly talented. Probably some of the most talented sort of athletes that walk on a football field to do what they do at their size. But they would make more impacts on football games if they played linebacker. A lot of these guys. I'm just saying. But the only first-round running back drafted since 2017 right now to be averaging over the league average for yards per carry is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who has multiple fumbles and is an afterthought in that offense because of Patrick Mahomes. You have the highest graded running back right now, drafted since 2017, is Josh Jacobs with a 74.0 running grade. It's often seen as a position that's easy to scout, that we know what translates, running backs to the NFL. That's they're safe picks. They are safe picks. That's why they go. Why you can say, Saquon Barkley's the best player in this draft. We're taking him at number 2 because we know because running back is like that easy to scout. But I'm not so certain it is. And I think with the results we're seeing with these first-round running backs, Josh Jacobs, 74.0 overall grade, 3.2 yards per carry. Leonard Fournette, 4.2 yards per carry. Saquon Barkley, 3.6. Najee Harris, 3.4. Christian McCaffrey, 3.9. Sony Michel, 3.7. Rashad Penny, 4.0, and obviously he's not had that many. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 4.9. There's, we might not be good at scouting running backs either. It might be difficult because all these guys are coming from, for the most part, places with very good offensive lines that put them in very good situations too. That they're not used to going behind. We see Najee Harris right now at 3.4 yards per carry. He's not used to running behind shit offensive lines. He doesn't know what to do because he's never had to do it. So I think there is an aspect to that to where, yes, we say that running back's the least valuable. Your offensive line first, scheme second, then running back talent is your running game. I also think we're maybe not great at identifying running back talent for a number of different.
How much of that though is not
being as good as we think?
Not being great at identifying running back talent and just looking for the wrong guy, because all these guys you mentioned are these 3-down bell cow backs that people want in the first round. Yeah. Are we? I think I said this on multiple episodes now. Why are we done looking for that guy? Do we want a 3-down bell cow? Do we want a guy we want to give 30 carries a game? I don't think so. Outside of Derrick Henry, I don't think there's. And McCaffrey too is dynamic. Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley, these are guys that you can have these 3-down opportunities with, but at the cost you need to maintain that 3-down back, you're gonna have to pay him a shitload of money or draft him really high or both.
Yeah.
Why are we chasing this 3-down bell cow? Why aren't we chasing more Raheem Mosterts, more speed backs, guys that you can have in a committee. I think that's where the NFL needs to go, and that ultimately, along with already the devalue of the position, I think.
Well, I think that comes back to what we just said about tight ends, where it's like if a guy is limited to what he can do, so Raheem Mostert, you're not going to all of a sudden leave in a pass protection and assume he's going to hope he's going to get the job done every time. Like, that's an issue. Like, they want the 3 down guys so that whatever you want to do in your offense, you can do. Is, I believe, the reason why you would do that.
I had an honorable mention, if I could submit one to the court.
Go ahead.
Are we ready to call David Arnett a bust?
Oh.
Too early?
The only thing was I was thinking about him. I'm not sure if we did him already after week 1 when he only played one snap.
We might have, actually.
I think we did Cleveland Ferrell when he was healthy scratch.
Jury's still out on David
Arnett. I don't think the jury's out. No, I don't.
The jury's gone. The jury's home.
Has reached a verdict. And
all right. Whiff watch. This is good. I like the black the juxtaposition here. Bust watch and then whiff watch. Who have you whiffed on that you really raise your hand on?
So to stay on the running back topic, we whiffed on Derrick Henry for fucking sure in that one. That was.
I think the NFL did.
NFL obviously did. He is the different running back. People say, oh, he's different. Derrick Henry is the different one. Derrick Henry is the guy that you can give to as many times as you want, and he'll continue to produce regardless of who the hell you have run blocking for them, which is like the rarity in NFL history. You got, over the past 15 years, you can name those guys on one hand. It's Adrian Peterson, him, maybe CJ2K in his prime. That's about
Marshawn Lynch.
Even he was like towards the, I guess maybe in Lynch's prime, I could probably see that too. But not a lot of guys like that. We had him 95th on the PFF draft board. I'm not even going to read some of the names in front of him, but it's not good. It's ugly. It's tough. It's tough to see. So if you want to go back and look, what's that 2017 PFF draft board? By all means, I'm not going to go read them.
Breakout watch, 2 edge defenders. Maxx Crosby, the Las Vegas Raiders edge defender. We talked already a ton about him. I think he leads the NFL in total pressures. He's up there in pass rushing grade. He has been phenomenal. The other name, though, Trevis Gipson, former Tulsa or Tulane?
Former Tulsa.
Tulsa edge defender, drafted by the Chicago Bears. He went up against Penei Sewell, had an inside move. I kind of perked up a little bit. He was playing well this past week, and he had some opportunities for the first time in a while for so far this season, and he looked really good. And he was another guy, too, that in the preseason was grading really well as well.
Yes. Gipson was he's kind of a project coming out of Tulsa. He was very athletic. And why I put him here with Maxx Crosby is because I kind of saw them as similar, where it's like they got the body type, they have the athleticism, and they produce on a football field, but it's just like you could tell that it probably wouldn't right out the gate click for them. Like they were guys that if they went to Georgia, Alabama, they would have been drafted higher. They straight up would have been, but it's because the level of competition they're going against, who they're facing, and just who they are as athletes. It's like you get a little bit wary. But Gipson looks like the real deal so far this year, playing much more physical, and the dude is like a freak. Like he has that bend that you want on the edge. So obviously he's not getting a ton of play time because Robert Quinn, Khalil Mack ahead of him. But when he has been there, he has shown up for sure.
We have our first round lock segment, and then we'll close out the show. But
we forgot the other bust watch. We forgot the Hall of Fame bust.
Oh, who do you got?
I want Tyreek Hill this week.
Wow.
I think I don't know how much longer Tyreek Hill has to play to join, but I think maybe like 2 or 3 years of this. Would he make the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I think so.
Because he has been, and right now I think I don't even know if you're questioning it right now with the fact that there's no other, Kelsey there, but there's no other really option after him at the receiver position in Kansas City, and he is still, lighting it up week after week.
I would argue, too, that he is
453 yards already.
Derrick Henry levels of rare, too, in terms of at the receiver position, like what he can do versus what other even talented receivers can do. He is different, absolutely different. Before we get to first-round lock and close out the show here, Urban Meyer has officially released another apology.
Another statement. Let's go. What is it?
It was to his team and source from Aditi Kinkwabala. I apologize for butchering that name. She's a reporter for NFL Network. Fantastic stuff. Follow her. 2 things. He cared about 2 things. his family, specifically his wife of Shelley of 37 years, and his players. I embarrassed them both today. Addressed the full team. Another apology for Urban Meyer. He's racking them up at this point, scoring more points than the Jaguars
Dude,
offense.
That apology was tough to read. It looked like what I imagine how my dog would sound when I catch him like chewing on a shoe.
I don't know if I like that comparison.
He was just like, I felt bad. I don't know. I shouldn't have done it. It was tough to watch.
I also think, fuck, I don't know how I want to approach this, and maybe I'll just
approach it.
But like, there has to be some like self-deprecating approach to this. You know, like that was not like. You did not go out there and slaughter some children. Like you went out, like you did some dumb shit, and you had to be like, "Hey, that was fucking stupid. I'm an idiot. I got to move on." Like I don't think it has to be like I've embarrassed my soul. Like it does, I get that it wasn't great and it wasn't good, and you have to be sorry for it. But I think the amount of like effort that has been pushed into these Twitter graphics, and now like the third apology in 3 days, it's like, okay, bro, like.
Yeah, I know.
You did some random chicks danced on you and like whatever, and you probably whatever. But like you need to say like, "Hey, I'm an idiot." You had an entire, you read those reports, the entire Jacksonville Jaguars team laughed at him when he left the door. Because of how stupid he's treating this.
Yeah. It was overly dramatic.
Yes, exactly. Overly dramatic. I don't think he's been overly remorseful. Obviously, it was stupid, but it has been overly dramatic. All right, first round lock. Read off who you have so far. Who's joining the list?
All right, Kayvon Thibodeau is the first one. Derrick Stingley Jr., LSU corner. Evan Neal, Bama, OT. Aiden Hutchinson, Michigan DE. Kyle Hamilton, Notre Dame safety. DeMarvin Leal, Texas A&M edge. And so we're on to number 7. And we're starting to get tight.
Yeah, this is
starting to think about this one. But this guy I feel very confident in because he's going to quite easily be the top player at his position. And while it's not a most valuable position, every year seemingly one goes in the first round. So if goddamn Garrett Bradbury can be a first-round pick, then Tyler Linderbaum is your first-round lock of this year.
Damn. What are your concerns with Linderbaum? Is there anything outside of like size?
No, I mean,
honestly, he's so much weight. I didn't mean to sound so. Honestly, added so much weight.
The size isn't even that much of a concern anymore. Guys are playing center at 290 in the NFL. It's like he's a center only. Probably you're not going to throw him at guard for pretty much any scheme. I would probably say he is a center only. Now he's not completely lights out in pass protection. That's not why you draft a center in the first round, though. You draft center for what he can do athletically, what he can do as a run blocker, and like for maybe one-on-one, he's not the most dominant center, but I think what he can do in terms of just agility, picking up stunts, cleaning out pockets is more valuable than, going one-on-one and being that guy in that regard. And then what he can do in the running game, scheme diverse, and just on the move, how he blocks so well, is that he's going to be first round lock. I just said it.
Love it. Some more reports on the Stephon Gilmore stuff before we break here. Apparently, according to Justina Anderson, that the Patriots wanted to play him, but he was not confident he was healthy enough to play.
Oh.
And they wanted to play him 75 to 80% of the snaps per game. He said he wasn't ready for that, but they weren't going to pay him until he play. So then he said, okay, I'm out. Or I think it was a mutual degree type of thing.
Oh, wow.
Where it's like, that's kind of crazy. Ends kind of in a stalemate with the man, the myth, the legend, Bill Belichick. All right. That's going to do it for this episode of Tailgate. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the show. You can find us on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcasts. We are going to UC on Friday, Kentucky on Saturday. Please hit us up if you want to meet us out there. We've already met a ton of Tailgate fans on the trip so far. Until next time, Austin Gayle, Mike Renner, producer Mike Quinn, producer David Sofaro, producer Max Chadwick, Tailgate.